What's up, YouTube? Mr. Lime SC here, and today we're going to look at the Diablo 4 open beta changes. This is all the feedback that we gave and what they have adjusted since then. And if you thought that they wouldn't make any changes, that it was purely going to be shipped as is, well, you would have been very wrong, because it looks, from a first glance, I haven't really looked through all of it, like they actually have gone in and tuned some stuff, adjusted some things, and hopefully making it a better experience. So, let's take a look. Diablo 4 Open Beta Retrospective, transforming feedback into change. On the weekends of March 17th to 24th, Sanctuary let out a cry for help, a cry that would be answered by hordes of wanderers who rode in on Nameless Horse and loosened Lilith's grasp on Sanctuary. During the early access open beta weekends, these players sent countless demons back to the burning hells, obtained powerful gear, and saw Lilith's grand plot begin to unfold before them. Many of these players also took the time to leave valuable feedback on our official Diablo 4 forums and on platforms such as Reddit, Discord, and youtube.com/MrLimeSC, twitch.tv/MrLimeSC. Wow, and I mean, that was really nice of them to include that. After the early access and open beta weekends concluded, the development team read through all your feedback and reviewed gameplay data. Using this information, we've made a variety of fixes and updates to various systems in Diablo 4, all of which will be present in the version of the game that launches on June 6th. None of this would be possible without the community's dedication and love for Diablo Universe, to which we say thank you. Let's get into it. Dungeons. Dungeon layouts. One of the most common pieces of feedback we received is that players felt they were doing a lot of backtracking within certain dungeons. We have optimized multiple dungeons across all zones to minimize the need for backtracking. Here is a list of dungeons specifically in the Fractured Peaks zone which received layout updates. Our primary goal with the layout changes was to reduce certain kinds of backtracking which detract from a player's experience. An example of this change is that players previously need to enter side rooms to interact with the structure objectives, causing them to retread the same path. Now many of our structure objectives have been repositioned along main dungeon pathways, making them easier for players to reach and allowing them to readily explore the dungeon after defeating the structure. Let's get our handy dandy paint. So what they're mainly saying here is originally the game dungeons were like this, essentially. Bloop. And then like that could be that. And then this would be like entrance or something, right? So originally there was like a structure in here, a structure in here, a structure in here, and then like three little boxes. And here was the boss's chamber. And so you'd come in here, you'd get this thing, you'd come around here, you'd get this thing, you'd come down here, you'd get this thing, and you'd go back. But of course you could only carry one of these at a time. So you'd be like more like this. Get this, go to here, fill it in. Get this, grab this, go to here, fill it in. Go down here, get this, go back up here, fill it in. Then you go and fight the boss. And it was just a lot of back and forth with all of that. So it would either be like that, or it would be, you could have it be something like this. Sometimes it'd be like this. And then this would be like this. And then like the boss would be, right here. But it was the same idea where you had to go over here, get this, come up, put it in, come back over here, go here, get this, come back, put it in. Right. It was either way going to be similar in those capacities. And it just wasn't fun because you were going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to collect and bring back just to open the boss. So now, as you guys saw right there, if we could, pretend that was or whatever. Now it seems like the dungeon is more just kind of straightforward. Here is the boss. Here is the like objective pieces. And I don't know how it'll be exactly, but let's just pretend it's like this. So now maybe there's like one right here, and one right here. And you just kind of collect them along the way, put them in. It still does have question of will you have to go back and forth still, because you can only carry one at a time. So you're not exploring deep into the side zone, but you're still potentially having to do that. I'm not exactly certain. It was tedious. I felt it was tedious. This was also partly my feedback as well. But so now, they're saying, though, it'll be like easier. You'll collect them and you'll just go and put them in, and then you'll be ready to fight, and you're not going to be going here and here and here and here and back to here and here. But I do question, is this going to be still an exciting thing? Because something that I felt overall with the dungeons was, one, they were still just very linear in their nature. The layouts still, to me, were just like, it was like I had to backtrack through them, and that was annoying. So this will potentially fix that piece. But they were still just like, I don't know, very, very linear, right? It was just very much like this, as opposed to, let me see if I can get something like Catacombs, right? Where you really get kind of these procedurally generated maps that get you kind of all this. And there is backtracking within this a little bit, in the way that if you run into a dead end, you have to backtrack for sure. So there will still be this piece, but you're not getting such linear just pathing overall. And I think, that's still something I hope, and I guess we can read a little more on, but that's something I hope that also maybe got shifted a little bit, was maybe there's a little more variety in the dungeon. Because again, and I ask this as a serious question to everybody out there. Can you tell me, I played 24 hours of the Diablo 4 beta. I don't know how many hours you played, but when you played this, can you tell me the difference between any of the dungeons? Can you name a dungeon and say, this dungeon was different from this one in this way? And this is a serious question, not like, I gotcha or whatever. Like an honest question that I'm asking to people. And if you can, I would love to hear what you remember, what was memorable about a certain dungeon that, was different or whatever it was, right? Sanguine Halls. There you go. One person seems like they had, an experience with one. I do not remember the difference within the dungeons. I remember instead of getting, one time I had to pick up a mechanical box, another time I had to go over here and this was like a switch I had to push. Another time it was like keys or something I had to push. Another time I had to kill every single monster in this dungeon. But I don't remember really much difference from the layouts overall. And I don't remember going to a specific dungeon and being like, that was the maggot lair. That was the pits. That was the tower, right? And you can say maybe those feel all the same to you, but I would say the tower's layout versus the pit layout versus the maggot lair layout versus, whatever, they have a lot of that piece, right? So I do hope that within the adjustments of improving these mechanics, they also gave just a little more personality to each of those dungeons. So I could be like, ooh, I remember that dungeon, and it was really like, there was really blocky, and there was a lot of tough turns and dead ends and monsters and traps and whatever things. And, I remember that different from this and whatever. Note for me. Dungeon events. The chance for an event to spawn inside of a dungeon has increased from 10% to 60%. Wow. The tower and the pit are in the same act. Also, tower, pit, catacombs, jail, barracks. There you go. There's 5 right there off the top of my head that are all very different. Chance for an event to spawn inside of a dungeon has increased from 10% to 60%. So when they say an event, I mean, I'm understanding like the butcher was an event. Um, what other events inside of the dungeon are they talking about? I'm not sure I fully. Event is also a person lying on the ground, so you can talk to them and spawn mobs. Cursed chest, shrines, those are events? Okay. So just a lot more shrines and things we'll see. The shrines were just like super overpowered. It felt like they were just crazy. Um, or the like blood ritual. I thought that was outside of a dungeon though. Loot goblins and invent as well. Okay. Anything just not guaranteed in the dungeon. Got it. I don't know if I have any crazy like specific opinion on that. We'll see what the shrine events that spawn mobs. Okay, yeah. I think it's a buff rug. It's a ball rug. Dungeon gameplay. To reduce the need to backtrack, small numbers of straggling monsters will seek out the player to help complete the kill all objectives. Kill all monsters objective. Okay, so this does seem to be a help. This is an improvement. They still had too many of those, I felt, but if all the monsters, or when you get to a certain point, the monsters at least start to seek you out, it maybe makes it a little easier than it just staying in a little corner, whatever. I still don't think we need to have this be a objective as often, but this is an improvement to it. When Animus is gathered, the player and nearby allies will gain 10 resource, reduce all active cooldowns by 1 second. Huh. Okay. Depositing Animus channel time was reduced from 3 to 0 seconds. Whoa. The time to rescue was reduced from 3 to 1.5 seconds. I mean, all of these things were things that, like, they could interrupt, though, right? So you had to, like, clear the area. Now it feels like you just go in and cheese it. If it's, like, 0, you're just like, you know, drop it. All rescue objectives now drop a health potion upon completion. Interesting. While carrying the ancient statue, bloodstone, mechanical box, or stone carving, you will receive a momentum bonus granting a 25% move speed increase to you and nearby allies. And this was the piece I was saying, like, whether I was an ancient statue, a bloodstone, a mechanical box, or a stone carving, it didn't really matter. None of those, like, had any difference. And it seems here, even still, they're all getting the same bonus. That is interesting as well. So I guess, again, the idea is just try and speed up the dungeon. Pedestals have had their channel time reduced from 2 to 0 seconds as well. Returning a portable object to its pedestal now fully restores health, resource, potions, and resets cooldowns for all nearby players. All doors will now generate a mini-map ping when they are opened. Interesting. All structured objectives in dungeons now have additional combat mechanics players must overcome. Okay. So now whenever you go to pick up any objective, you have to fight something. Yeah, this is so you fight the boss fresh. Huh. Well, our dungeons offer a variety of objectives to complete each player's. Player feedback stated that the action of completing each objective felt tedious. I would say it's because all of the objectives felt the exact same. We hope that providing bonuses such as the increase to mobility while carrying certain objective items will streamline and vary the experience of completing objectives. How does that vary it, though? This adjustment is merely a starting point. We intend to extend this philosophy to keys in a future update. Like, if you just grant everything a 25% bonus movement speed, then nothing is really varied. Am I wrong? I'm really confused. Okay. Well, we'll have to see how this plays, of course. This definitely is going to speed everything up, as now it's like movement speed boost, 0 seconds to deposit animus. Pedestals have 0 seconds on their channel time. You get all of your everything like fully restored. And it says returning a portable object to its pedestal does this. And if there's 3 portable objects, that would mean every time you come back, you would get all your cooldowns restored, right? So this will make dungeons less of a drag, but I don't think it varies the objective in any capacity, really. It's still, in my opinion, going to feel the same from those changes. General classes. Effects like stun and freeze can be applied to elite monsters twice as long before they become unstoppable. Okay. Reviewed class skills to confirm that all classes have access to sufficient skills that remove control impairing effects. Reviewed them. So they just want to make sure everybody has a skill to like get out of being control impaired early on enough. And many legendary powers have had updates to their effectiveness. Okay, that's very general. Barbarian. A flat 10% passive damage reduction has been added to the Barbarian class. Wow, 10%. Huge. Some skill tree passives had their damage reduction effects reduced to compensate. Okay, so that just becomes more natural. The Whirlwind skill... my voice. So thank you. Whirlwind skill now deals more damage and consumes more fury. And the double swing skill enhancement refunds its full fury cost when used on stun or knockdown enemies. Interesting. Druid. Companion skills will now deal heavily increased damage. All ultimate skills have had their cooldowns reduced. That's nice. Usability improvements have been made to maul and pulverize. Using a non-shapeshifting skill will transform a druid back into their human form. I feel like this just plays further into the idea. Like, I didn't get to play the druid, but from what I saw, wasn't everybody just already using pulverize? I feel like this is just going to make pulverize even more the go-to. Like, this was the only skill that did damage for the leveling up and stuff. I felt like everybody complained about the, like, tornado, hurricane, that stuff. Landslide was also good? Okay. Alright, we'll see how it goes. Companion skills now deal heavily increased damage. People definitely noted this as well, so hopefully that's a nice boost. Necro. Summon minions will die more often, requiring players to utilize corpses more often. Again, I didn't get to play. I was having a baby when this beta was going on, so I did not get to play Necro or Druid here. So I don't know what this felt like, but some people were like good because they felt like the skeletons were immortal. Other people were like, eh. They don't want to have to cast it more. Many bonuses in the Book of the Dead have had their stats increased. The damage dealt by corpse explosion skill has been reduced, which from what I heard, that was probably needed because everybody just used corpse explosion everywhere. And the brightness of the mages and warriors has been reduced. Probably good as well. They seemed a little bright. Rogue upgrades for subterfuge skills have had their bonuses increased. Multiple passive skills have had their bonuses increased, and all imbuement skills have had their cooldowns increased. Oh, increased. So Necro got a little nerf there. Seems like Rogue seems like she just got upgraded with just more better bonuses. Which when I remember playing the rogue, I remember it was hard to pick skills because I didn't actually, like, nothing looked interesting enough. The bonuses didn't seem good enough, so this will probably be good. That seems like a good change. Sorcerer. Charge bolt's damage was increased, and the mana cost to cast has decreased. Okay. Decrease the damage of chain lightning and reduce its effectiveness against bosses. Yeah, chain lightning was probably a little too good. Decrease the cooldown for the incinerate skills enchantment bonus. I don't think I used that. Firewalls will now spawn underneath enemies more frequently when using its enchantment bonus. And increase the lucky hit chance for meteors skills enchantment bonus. Whenever we introduce changes to our classes, it's with the goal of making both them and their skills feel impactful and powerful. Your feedback has helped us to uphold this ideal. Some players have adeptly noted that certain skills are too powerful. One of our goals for skills is to have them be interesting to wield and interactive in terms of itemization and combat feel. We've made some changes to help in this regard, with the one example being the Necromancer's minions. We've made a change that makes them more vulnerable in combat, which will make raising the dead a more active component of the Necromancer's gameplay. Launch is just the first step of our class balance journey. You can expect further updates that iterate on this pillar of Diablo 4. Yeah, a lot of people used Hydra for Sorcerer as well, but Chain Lightning was nasty. I mean, they've improved Meteor and Firewall and Incinerate, like, bonuses. So that'll probably still be paired with Hydra. UI. Fixed an issue where the built-in screen reader was not reading key prompts, game option details, and other UI text. Fixed an issue where actions cannot be bound to the mouse wheel. That's good. Fixed an issue where evade couldn't be bound to the right analog stick on controller. Chat will now display on the left side of the screen. Yay! When using the standard action bar configuration. Finally! That's so much... Oh, I love it. A character's stats will be displayed by default when players click the Materials and Stats button within their inventory. Also good. The move and interact inputs can now be mapped to one button. Oh, thank God. While the primary attack input is mapped to a secondary button. Yay. Again, another good change. And the sans serif font used in the game has been replaced with a new serif font. Oh, can you show us what the font is? Please let us see. Oh, at least they're changing the font. Hopefully it's just Comic Sans. It's like the bolded version of it now. Yeah, the font was jarring. Times New Roman incoming. We'll see. We'll see what they replace it with. Oh, I wish Rick. Fixed multiple issues that allowed bosses like the Butcher to become unresponsive. Interesting. Butcher has been reevaluated for difficulty and will present a greater challenge in World Tiers 3 and 4. Are they going to lower him in Tiers 1 and 2, though? That'll be sad. Bosses such as Short, Malnock, Vinard, and others were reevaluated for melee character difficulty, resulting in changes to attacks and fight mechanics. Wow. Wow. Interesting. Okay. So, I mean, that's good because the fights definitely felt like they were set up to be a mage or some sort of range class. And then it was like, for melee, you just had to kind of tank a lot of stuff. So that's good. We'll see what happens there. Fix an issue where Vampire Boots using the Shadow Enchant affix would Chain Cast Impale. Sellers. Increase the chance for a dungeon event to occur in Cellars. Cellars now consistently reward a chest upon completion. Fixed an issue where Cellars would prematurely be marked as complete. Fixed an issue where the guaranteed elite monster would be absent from a cellar. Cellars are still kind of boring to me, honestly. Just like go down in and it's just one room. But, you know, if they have really cool events in them, I think they could be improved for sure. But overall, I felt like the sellers were a little meh. General quality of life. Fixing ensure players could increase attack speed by move canceling. Oh my god, they fixed that. That's also very good because, again, it's like nobody wants to have to animation cancel over and over again to be optimized, you know. Fixed and ensure characters weren't immune and untargetable after loading into an area. Probably good. And the reset dungeon button has been disabled. People were definitely abusing that for leveling, so that's
sorry I'm late.
Probably
Can
good
we
as
start
well.
from the beginning?
Oh yeah, we'll go back. All right, let's just scroll up here. While Diablo 4 Sanctuary is home to over 100 dungeons, the open beta only had a subset offered in Act 1's Fractured Peaks for players to explore, and a level cap that isn't a full representation of the experience at launch. There are many reasons to complete a variety of dungeons, including collecting powerful affixes in the Codex of Power, and players will still be able to repeat dungeons by partying up with others and having them start the dungeon. Wait, I can't do a dungeon again? Like, even if I just go all the way out? Oh, no. We also wanted to make sure that resetting the dungeon wasn't a way for hardcore players to avoid death when experiencing a challenge in a dungeon. Still, we know it can be fun to repeat a specific dungeon, yes, and the team is looking at a more permanent solution to this, like having some reasonable cap on how many times the same dungeon can be completed in a row to better support that style of play. In fact, in the full game, players will acquire sigils that will unlock nightmare dungeons, which are specifically designed to be completed repeatedly and are optimized to be highly rewarding and replayable. We'll have more to share on this in the future. Huh. So now you can only play through a dungeon one time. Interesting. For now. They're still trying to figure out how to do it. Until you get to the nightmare dungeons at the end game. Why would you? I mean, have you ever gone through the tower many times before? Interesting. That's an interesting, like, we'll see what they adjust there. Yeah, are they going to do it now like once a day or something? I mean, it's interesting because Diablo games are literally built on farming. And a lot of times you farm the same areas over and over again because you find a good area to farm, right? Oh, hey, this dungeon has some good bosses, so I'm going to go in there and I'm going to farm that a few times over and over because I feel safe in there and I enjoy this dungeon and whatever stuff. So that's a really interesting decision to take away farming of dungeons. Yeah, like obviously late game, but you say it's only for early game, but it's still a decision of like, screw you in the early game. Huh. I hate when people say, yeah, but end game. I don't care about end game. That's not what we're talking about. We'll get to endgame later. This is the game still. A game should always be fun from the start. Forget your endgame. That's interesting. Fixed an issue that caused Gale Valley and Steric Rapture to have less monsters than intended until the campaign quests in those territories were completed. And then on April 20th, in 3 days, they're going to be joining with Riker for the Diablo 4 developer update live stream. And they'll talk about the endgame offerings and elaborate on the post-open beta changes made to classes and dungeons. Visit our official Diablo channel and YouTube channels at twitch.tv/MrLawMSC and youtube.com/MrLawMSC. Hail Lilith, blessed daughter of Mr. Llama SC, the Diablo 4 team. That was a nice little finish they gave there. That's interesting, man. I mean, I think the issue comes down to Diablo 4 has dynamic level scaling. So now, right, like go back to Diablo 2. We'll just use that because it doesn't. But you can go to many games. If I do tower runs, great. I can do tower runs as long as I want. And eventually I'm just going to stop gaining experience, right? Oh, cool. I'm level like 17 and I get, a single bar of experience, half a bar of experience every full run of the dungeon I do. But the issue with this game is, since it's dynamic level scaling, you can just literally do this dungeon over and over and over and over. And you could probably just go to max level in this single dungeon, right? Unless they cap the dungeon's level at some point. So I can understand how this issue arises, and it really comes from the dynamic scaling rather than from, the idea that it's bad that people can reset a dungeon. That really is, now that I think about it, that's where the problem is. Because yes, Diablo 2 would be really boring if I could do the Den of Evil over and over again, and I just keep leveling up doing the Den of Evil. It's like, well, hold on. How do we get people out of the Den of Evil then? So you have to have, obviously, a cap on the experience there, on the levels there. Which is why I wish there wasn't dynamic scaling in this game. So maybe that will be a solution that they do come up with, is putting like slight dynamic scaling. Like it'll kind of scale up a little bit, but then this dungeon tops out at level like 15. The next dungeon tops out at 18. The next dungeon tops out at 21. So like you can kind of run them, but eventually you have to move on. I think that could be a solution that they can implement where they can still keep their dynamic scaling, but they can say, hey, when you're in Act 1, you're not going to get over level 20. And so, they can do that stuff. And then obviously when it becomes a nightmare dungeon, it loses that and it becomes, it all scales up. Interesting. Okay. There is also a couple more notes that I remember seeing. I believe Joe said, we also adjusted many skills to make their maximum distances consistent between aspect ratios, like teleport. So now if you have a giant monitor screen that's huge, you can't teleport the entirety of the screen, I believe. Which is probably a good thing to do. I believe I'm for this change. And we have one of the saddest potential changes here. Which is no plans for overlay map in Diablo 4. Will there be a tab overlay map eventually added to the game? I really miss being able to look at my map while moving to D4. No plans at the moment. And this, I feel, is a really big miss. not just because I personally use this, but because it's such a staple in like ARPGs nowadays. Like every ARPG has an overlay map now. Why are we removing quality of life? Even if you do not use it, why would you be against a feature that so many people use? Like, what if they only gave us an overlay map and didn't give us a corner map, right? I'd be like, hey, you should also give a corner map for all the people that hate overlay maps and want the corner map. So, this is a hard miss for me because again, it is a staple now. It doesn't seem like a crazy hard thing to build in. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. But I'm very like sad about this piece cuz I hate having just like corner map only and stuff. Yeah, I'm like, hey, let me loan you guys Warren for a day. You got to pay me for him, obviously, and he'll build it in. So yeah, I really hope this gets changed, and at the moment becomes this moment. We now have a plan for it because there's enough whining. So yeah, I really hope that gets shifted over because that just seems sad. Okay. Overall thoughts on it. They definitely listened to a lot of feedback. There's definitely some nice changes. We'll see, new font, stuff like that. That'll be interesting. Fixing animation canceling. They really did go in and fix some important issues. Overlay map, a big miss right there. Dungeons, I'm not sure dungeons are really improved yet. I'll have to play them. They might be faster, but I'm not sure that there's still really variety that's been brought in. And if the layouts are all still the same, I'm not sure. Again, I'll know the difference, between any of them. But we'll see. We'll just have to go in and play for those. Classes. I'm really excited that they made melee hopefully a little bit better on bosses. I think that'll be nice. I still think there'll be some issue for a lot of like barbarian skills and things. I imagine he'll still be kind of weak leveling up. But then I also think endgame barbarian's just going to be way overpowered because he has all these extra item slots, which is so many more stats and things that I think he's just going to be really, really good. I think the barbs are just having that many extra items over other classes that's just so many extra affixes that he gets. So I think he's going to get like really strong. And again, it's not bad to have a class be like weaker and then stronger, or stronger and then weaker a little bit, right? It's like, I kind of like classes having some variability in how they go. So I actually liked my playthrough of the Barbarian the best of all the characters. Like when I played through early game, I actually felt like Barbarian was the most fun for me, even though it was a little weaker. I felt like, I actually like had to play more and focus more. I don't know. Some bosses were annoying, but other than that, I had a blast with him. Yeah, still, there's still some, general, I still have some of my concerns and issues that I've talked about before with like sellers just being kind of a copy pasted thing that seemed pretty generic and bland. We'll see, if this will make it more exciting to go in a seller, but we'll see that. Like I say, good changes here. Questions for sure on the reset dungeon. And again, the level scaling I think has issues. Definitely still some questions for sure. And I still overall have my general concern that legendaries are too much just overall. It's like that should be stuff that you build into the skills and gets more like, you know, in a more tuned down way. Right now, it really feels like get your legendary and it's like 200%, you know, more burning damage for things. And they also this, whatever, you know, I don't know. The legendaries to me felt like really important and really required a little bit for builds. Which, you know, maybe that's how they want it to go. But we'll just have to see, I guess, how things play out with all that. How things continue on, because we only got to go into like, you know, again, level 25, whatever. So still many questions to be had. Hopefully we'll get to play again. If not, we'll just play through at the launch, the pre-launch piece, and hopefully it all works out and it's all a lot of fun. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts down below. Mwah. Kisses to you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe, YouTube. Peace.